The aircraft touched down perfectly, engines humming, landing lights steady, like nothing was wrong. But when ground crew opened the doors, every single seat inside was completely empty. No passengers, no crew, and no signs anyone had ever been there at all. And somehow, that was only the beginning of what didn't make sense. The flight had departed normally, logged, tracked, and monitored like thousands of others that day. It left from a major airport, carrying over 100 passengers and a full crew on board. Air traffic control maintained routine contact during ascent, with no signs of distress or confusion. Everything followed standard procedure, predictable, boring, exactly how aviation is supposed to work. Then, somewhere over open airspace, something subtle changed, almost too small to notice. The pilot's voice, once calm and precise, became slightly delayed between response. Controllers asked routine questions, receiving answers that felt just a fraction off timing. Not wrong, not alarming, just delayed enough to feel strangely disconnected from reality. Within minutes, communication became shorter, clipped, like someone trying to sound normal under pressure. Then came a final transmission that would later be replayed hundreds of times. "We're maintaining course. Everything is under control. Preparing for scheduled descent shortly." Nothing unusual in the words themselves, but something about the tone felt empty. After that, silence. No distress signal and no emergency call. No indication anything had gone wrong inside that aircraft. Yet radar showed the plane continuing its route exactly as planned. Altitude steady, speed unchanged. It began descending at the expected waypoint, aligning perfectly with its destination airport's approach path. From the outside, it looked like the most routine landing imaginable. Ground control cleared the runway, expecting a standard arrival with passengers eager to disembark. Emergency crews were not on standby because there was absolutely no reason to suspect anything unusual. The plane touched down smoothly, wheels hitting the runway with textbook precision and control. It taxied to the assigned gate, engines winding down like any other completed flight. Jet bridge connected, doors opened, and that's when reality stopped making sense. The cabin was completely silent, not the usual shuffle of passengers unbuckling or grabbing overhead luggage. Flight attendants were nowhere to be seen near the entrance or aisles. Rows of seats stretched back in eerie stillness, tray tables up, seatbelts neatly aligned. No bags in overhead compartments and no personal items left behind. No signs of panic, struggle, or even normal human presence. It looked less like a flight had landed, and more like one had never happened. Investigators immediately locked down the aircraft, treating it as a potential crime scene. Every surface was examined, fingerprints, fibers, anything that could explain what occurred mid-flight. But results only made things worse. There were no usable fingerprints inside the cabin. Not even partial smudges from passengers who should have filled every seat. The cockpit told an even stranger story. Flight controls were set correctly for landing. Autopilot disengaged at the appropriate time. Throttle adjustments matched a skilled manual descent, not a system failure or automated glitch. Someone had landed that plane, but whoever did wasn't there anymore. Security footage from the departure airport confirmed every passenger boarding as scheduled that morning. Families, business travelers, couples, all moving normally through the gate without hesitation or concern. Nothing unusual in behavior, no suspicious individuals, and no last-minute changes to the manifest. The plane pushed back on time, taxied, and took off without incident. Surveillance from the destination airport showed something equally unsettling after landing. No one exited the aircraft and no one walked down the jet bridge. No movement behind the cabin windows at all. Yet the plane had clearly arrived. Engines warm, systems active, exactly as expected. Air traffic data confirmed the aircraft never deviated from its assigned route during the entire flight. No sudden drops, no sharp turns, no unexplained altitude changes suggesting an emergency or event on board. Weather conditions were calm, with no turbulence severe enough to disrupt communication or cause panic. investigators began considering possibilities that sounded increasingly irrational the longer they examined evidence. Could it have been a coordinated disappearance? A mid-air evacuation somehow leaving no trace or signal? But there was no aircraft capable of intercepting unnoticed at that altitude and speed. No parachutes, no debris, no emergency beacons triggered during the entire duration of the flight. Then came the first real shift in how the case was understood. Flight data logs revealed small inconsistencies in timestamps recorded during mid-flight operations. Not large gaps, not missing chunks, just subtle misalignments measured in seconds and fractions. Systems that should have synced perfectly were slightly out of phase with each other. It was as if parts of the flight hadn't occurred in the same timeline. The autopilot logs showed continuous operation, yet control input suggested manual adjustments at overlapping moments. Communications timestamps didn't align cleanly with radar positioning data during critical segments of the flight. Multiple systems, each reliable on their own, were quietly disagreeing with each other. That raised a possibility far more disturbing than any conventional explanation. What if the aircraft hadn't experienced a single continuous event from takeoff to landing? What if something had interrupted reality itself, briefly, precisely, and without leaving visible damage behind? Passengers, crew, everything inside the cabin, simply gone, without struggle or trace. No signs of force and no evidence of panic. No indication they even knew something was wrong before disappearing. Families of those on board demanded answers, but none came that made any sense. Authorities released limited information, careful not to fuel speculation they couldn't control or understand. The aircraft itself was eventually removed from service, quietly stored away from public access. Official reports concluded with phrases like undetermined anomaly and no evidence of criminal activity, which is a very polished way of saying they had absolutely no explanation. Years later, fragments of the case still circulate among aviation experts and investigators, not as a solved mystery, but as a reminder of something deeply uncomfortable. A fully operational aircraft guided safely to the ground, with no one left inside to fly it. No crash, no explosion, and no disappearance from radar, just absence. And the unsettling possibility that whatever happened wasn't an accident at all. Because if something can remove over 100 people from a sealed aircraft mid-flight, then it can probably do it again. And next time, it might not leave the plane behind as evidence. If you enjoy exploring mysteries like this, make sure to subscribe for more unexplained discoveries.